Out at Work Live. And if you were with us 2 weeks ago, you know this young woman that has joined us yet again to talk about this critical subject. If you missed it 2 weeks ago, you definitely, of course, I know you're a subscriber. Of course you are, if you're not subscribed, but catch that replay from 2 weeks ago where we really dug into gaslighting. We really talked about 2 weeks ago what is it and the impact it can have on Black and Brown women. But what I'm going to do is we kick off this part two with Zenica Chatman. We are going to, yeah, I did say Chapman. I'm sorry. It does feel like I said chap. I feel like my lips went to chap. It's like, what the world? Zenica Chatman. What we're going to do is open this session with a reminder of what gaslighting is, but a fun fact, because she just shared this with me before we came live, and I have never heard of it. And I wanted her to share it with you. So, Zenica, for those people that didn't join us last week, share with them this fun
Yeah.
fact on gaslighting.
So for those of you who didn't join us last week, y'all will know I also had like a really fun analogy around gaslighting last week too.
True. Very true.
So it gets a little bit of how my brain works. But I was telling Linda before we went live that I found this like crazy fun fact. So y'all can kind of research it. It's internet research, y'all. So we know how that goes. But it was saying that the term gaslighting, because I'm gonna read it because I want to say it like I saw it, comes from a 1938 play by Patrick Hamilton, known in America as Angel Street. But later, this play was adapted into a film called Gaslight by Alfred Hitchcock. And in the film, there's a husband who tries to make his wife think that she's losing her mind by making subtle changes in her environment, including slowly and steadily dimming the flame on a gas lamp. And so it goes on to talk about kind of all the what happens with the wife, that she starts to second guess herself, her feelings, her perceptions, even her memories. She starts to feel neurotic and hypersensitive, just out of control, which the goal, of gaslighting. That's what the goal
Yeah.
of gaslighting is. And so because this film was an accurate portrayal of the controlling and toxic actions that manipulative people use, psychologists and counselors began to label this type of emotional abuse gaslighting. Isn't that crazy?
But crazy as it may sound, appropriate, spot on it is, though.
Yeah.
And I have to say, yeah, okay, we have to question because it's internet, but it sounds like, I mean, it makes sense to me because that's exactly what gaslighting is.
Yeah.
Manipulative movement to make you think what happened, what did happen, how you felt about it, all those things are not true.
Yeah.
Didn't happen, oh, you've been blah, 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 right? So I can see Alfred Hitchcock
Yes.
contributing to that. I
Yes.
can
And
see
there's
that
even
connect.
more history about Alfred Hitchcock that he really, anytime I heard that little song, I was out the room. I never stuck around for it.
Mm,
But that he really always was trying to make some type of social message in the movie.
wow.
Hmm.
Aha. Well, there you have it. So, for those of you who needed to be caught up on what gaslighting is, I thought that was an excellent example. Fun fact, who knows? Uh, could be absolutely 100% true. Like I said, we know the internet. But if any of you want to fact check that and send us some
Yes.
comments or messages, like please do, please do. But this is part two, as I said, and I want to focus this session on how do we handle this in the
Hmm.
workplace. So we are in the workplace dealing with, as Black and Brown women, what we know to be true when someone says something or someone does something or we experience something over and over again and we start to question it and we push back and then we're told, oh, well, that was for your development. It's really part of leadership growth. Or is that really what you heard? Oh, I didn't hear it that way. Or why are you so upset? I mean, he or she didn't mean XYZ when they said exactly what they meant.
Hmm.
So, how do we day to day, month to month, year to year handle that such that we do not suffer the repercussions that we shared in the first session. So Zanika, from your experience and your work, you work with women, in particular Black and Brown women, helping them deal with workplace trauma, so that when they get, so they could get on the other side of trauma like this and be successful. Have you dealt with, particularly in your clients, specific gaslighting situations? And can you share a little bit about how you guide them through that type of trauma?
Yeah, so I think one of the important things is a lot of clients, and I'm sure you see this too, Linda, they think it's gaslighting. They're not sure, but now we've already kind of let everybody know what that is. And that's one of the things that, I often do with my clients, whether they come from, workplace bullying, because that's a thing too that I
Hmm.
talk about in my coaching practice, but or if it's just, regular old toxicity that they can't quite put a name to. And one of the first things that I help them do is just like, you have to acknowledge what it is that you
Mm,
experienced and acknowledge your feelings around it. Because being gaslit and being manipulated in this way and being questioned, it just has a way of breaking your confidence. It's really the
yes,
work that we do, is putting their confidence back together. But you can't start to heal if you don't acknowledge what it is that has happened to you and start to get some distance from it, which I know everybody thinks that you can't do these things in a work environment. I have to work with this person, or I have to work with that person. Yeah, maybe you do, but maybe you don't have to give them as much mental and emotional space as you've been
yes.
giving them.
Yes, I think that's so important. We touched on it a little bit 2 weeks ago, but we wanted to save it for this session because we're now
Yeah.
on the methodologies and tools side to deal with it. But you're absolutely right, Sanika. You have to call a thing a thing. You have to appropriately, clearly, and without reservation identify it. But again, I mean, that in itself could be difficult because we're already told that
Mm-hmm.
we overreact, we're
Mm-hmm.
angry Black women, we can't, what you're experiencing or how you're feeling, oh, that's just too much and it's not really like that. So just that first step alone can be daunting. It can be, you know, extremely challenging for somebody to say, I have been bullied,
Mm-hmm.
or gaslighting is happening. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to help your clients at least do that foundational fundamental thing, is there some tools you give them to help them get out of their own way and allow them to really call the thing?
Yeah. I think one of the things, and we might have talked about this before, Linda, that I do is like I will oftentimes show my clients. We oftentimes talk about where some of these stereotypes and myths come from, just
Mm,
around being a Black woman. And because,
yes,
and in my program, we talk about disruption, and people get terrified about that word. But what it really
yeah.
is really kind of picking apart why we are working. And when I say working, I mean in a corporate environment, in a 9 to 5 environment, why we are working the way that we're working. And a lot of it, we talk about mindset a lot, but there are a lot of mindset and beliefs and attitudes that we carry as Black women, and we carry that into the workplace. So this feeling of
Mm,
having to exist and exhibit a certain way, having to work a certain way, having to overwork ourselves just to be seen and heard, having to work twice as hard as everyone else, or
yes,
not questioning, right? As Black women, not
yes,
questioning the
yes,
authority,
yes.
because as descendants of oppressed people, questioning could get you killed.
Mhm.
And so we
Absolutely.
carry that in the workplace too, right? Of not wanting to kind of push the bounds, or test authority. And so that's part of the work that I do, is really helping women understand, where do these things come from and
Come
how
from.
are they showing up for us at work? We talk a
Yes,
lot about like relationships and all of that, but how does it show up for us when we go to work?
absolutely. And Zanika, that's why for me, I know you've heard me often say, who you are personally is who you are professionally.
Yeah.
And the connection you just made, I mean, just we as a people questioning authority, yes, has gotten us killed. And so and I know I was raised, my mother, it will be 95 next month, right? Born in the Great Depression era. And so
Yeah.
I was raised in this environment where you don't question, you keep your head down, you work hard, and you just do what they tell you to do. That's all she knew. right? And she grew up as a factory worker, told what she was supposed to do. And Linda, you don't ruff feathers, you just don't, just keep it moving. And we've had obviously a lot of conversation around that. And it's been interesting for her as she's gotten older. But, and she will say, yeah, you guys do things differently. And thank goodness we do. But my point is, that's what I remember growing up, right? So who I am, I show up in the workplace, that person in the back of my mind, my mother in my ear. So I
Mhm.
think it's so important for us to understand that as we're trying to identify this. Barrington joined us and he says, been learning a lot about gaslighting this month, this in the workplace, and it needed and the need to identify it. He's like, great topic because some people don't know about gaslighting. And I truly believe he's right. I think although you and I and our clients, we're dealing with and working with our clients on a regular basis, there's still a handful or more of us that don't know how to identify it
Mhm.
and then therefore understand it such that they can then do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't you say? So
Yeah.
it's just so, yes, that's why this is your first key, your first recommendation to really know what it is and then speak it out, build
Mhm.
that confidence to say, this is what's happening to me is so important. Was there more
Mhm.
you wanted to share?
No, and I just wanted to share just to the point where you talked about some of it being just difficult to say too. Like the other thing that I like to do, which is
Mm.
so simple, is to show my clients like the wheel of emotion because we tend to
Oh,
only want to function on one side of that, which is positive, right? And of course, us, we don't want to be mad. But listen, if somebody is gaslighting you, you are a human being having a human experience. If you're a black woman, black man, we don't want to be angry because we're always labeled that. But guess what? That's a natural emotion.
yes.
It's a natural emotion. When you start to understand gaslighting is really a form of manipulation and emotional abuse, how do you think you're supposed to feel? You might be a little
Mm.
off about that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Anika, it's just so interesting that you talk about the emotion wheel and that we tend to lean to the positive side of it. Because Barrington, who I thank you for joining, he's so engaged. He says, I'd say most people want validation from their coworkers and supervisors about their work success, about the positive side of it. To
Yeah.
your point, right? We tend to focus on the positive side of the emotion wheel. So we want to feel good and we want to have those conversations. But when it comes to really identifying those challenges, like the one we're talking about, you're right. I mean, that's going to tick you off.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute. And you have to deal with that when you are really trying to focus, as Barrington shared.
Mhm.
Okay, let's talk about my successes. Let's talk about how well I did that. Let's talk about this, how good I am in that part.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how if I can handle what's over here. When actually what's over here is heavily impacting your
Yeah.
ability to truly be successful and be fully recognized for what you bring to the table. Would you
Yeah.
not? Would you not agree?
Of course, 100%. I agree with that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so one of your first recommendations is identify.
Mhm.
That'll help build confidence, right?
Yes.
And then you use the emotion wheel to help that identification process. Absolutely love it. So, where would you recommend a person then go once they've, okay, yes, I see, Zenica, what you're talking about. You showed me, I can grasp it now. And
Mhm.
yes, that's what I'm in at the moment. Okay,
Yeah.
so now where do I go?
Yeah, and it's so funny that Barrington talks about the validation too. I think the next phase of just the work that I do is helping people to release the idea, the belief, the story, the thought that you can change other people.
Mm,
Because people,
mm,
at least the women that I see in my practice who are really broken, after toxic after toxic after toxic workplace, is
yeah,
they are looking for validation. They know they're like, hey, whatever happened to me was wrong, and nobody spoke up, and that's why they can't get out of the story. But you have to start to release that it
yeah.
really doesn't matter what you do. You
Mm.
can't change other people's actions. You just don't have any control over that.
Gosh, and Zanika, I'm sorry, I'm gonna take this and connect it to who we are sometimes as Black women. personally, because we can get in relationships thinking we can fix someone. And oh, you know what? But Linda, I really was into him and I felt like I could change him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's personal. People are thinking, why is she talking about that? Because when you go in the workplace, you're not going to change Michael, just like you might not, can't even change your boss's thought, and that's your boss.
Nope.
You cannot, right? They are fundamentally who they are. Now, some people, I have experienced some people, and I think it's just the nature of who they are, that they're open to realizing that they possibly had the wrong narrative, wrong perspective, and they end up evolving, growing, right? You can run into those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
nine times out of 10, which is why I love what you're sharing, Zenica, it's the mindset, right? Don't go in thinking you're going to change everybody because
Mm-hmm.
the likelihood of you being able to do that is probably slim.
Yeah.
And
And,
if you
and
sit around waiting for the validation to do that, here we are. Go
it
ahead,
is.
you were getting ready to say?
No, I was just going to agree with you. And I think one of the things that I tell my clients all the time, and I think we talked about this last time too, Linda, is you have to learn to validate your own experience. Your
Yes,
experience is already valid.
yes, yes, absolutely. You got to validate yourself. You have to be able to look in that mirror and know you know who you see,
Yeah.
irrespective if anybody else in that workplace agrees with you.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
got to know that you know. It's like
Yeah.
the shirts you have on, right? That we bought from a
I
fellow.
belong on the
Yes,
call.
I belong on the call. I belong in the room and I belong at the table. I
Right. I
have the
love that.
same shirt, right? And that's so true. I love the fact that Lisa Medley provided that vehicle for us to walk, to show that, yeah, look, and when I posted on IG, I was like, yes, I do, because I know that I do. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
think that is just so critically important. So, okay, so first we talked about, again, everyone, just reminding you as you're joining us, I noticed that we have some Miss Nick came on just now. We have some people joining us live. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, Zenica joined us and we talked about what gaslighting is and how it affects Black and Brown women in the workplace. Frankly, how it affects anyone in the workplace, but mostly people of color. If you missed that, please go back and revisit that session. This session, what we're focusing on is, okay, now you know what it is. How do you handle it if you're being faced with it? And so Shanika's there with us. Hey, first of all, identify it. You have to be able to call a thing, know exactly what it is, and then speak it out loud. That is exactly what you're dealing with. And in doing so, it can build your confidence, as she so aptly shared. Also, Sanika shared with us that when she works with her clients, she uses the emotional wheel to help show them if they're real struggling on how to identify gaslighting. She shows them, which I absolutely loved that. I thought that was just phenomenal, phenomenal. And then because Barrington was sharing with us on validation, love this next one she mentioned. You got to be able to support yourself, validate, advocate yourself, because you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to change individuals. So as I continue to read some comments, Anika, why don't you take us maybe into the next steps that you would recommend?
Yeah, so now we kind of can move into this phase where we can analyze it, right? Because now
Mhm.
your spirit is a little fortified, you're getting your swag back, and now we're at a place where we might can say specifically, let's name the situation here and tell me what you felt so you know, okay, this thing triggered me in this way. Did you like your reaction, right? So this thing event was a trigger. Here's
Yeah.
what I felt and thought in that moment, and then here's what I did. Right. And
Mm.
it's somewhere between I went off or I didn't do anything.
Right. Definitely.
and no judgment, right?
Yeah, for
But did
sure.
you like that reaction? And if the answer is no, usually it's not. No, we don't like going off, right?
Sure.
We
Right.
don't like to be taken out of ourselves. And sometimes we don't like to do anything. But sometimes
Right.
you like that answer, right? If you know gaslighting Gabby is always going to gaslight, you might be at a point where walking away works,
Mm. Is everything. Yes.
right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's doing those other steps first that now you can analyze, okay, these things trigger me in this way. And now I can plan for them.
Mm.
The strategy. because we know Gaslighting Gabby is going to do her thing whenever she get a chance,
Mm-hmm.
but you're going to be ready with how you choose to react, because it's all about owning your choices.
Yes. And when you say, Zanika, at least from my personal experience, and I'm glad you used the gaslighting Gabby example, because those people who gaslight tend to just are always those people who gaslight, right?
Mhm.
And you can identify them, call them out. You can even know when they're about to do it after a
Right.
while. You mean you right? Because there's things that take them down that path. Would you agree that once you figure that out and you find out what works for you in those situations, whether it's walk away, whether it's address it, whether whatever it is, I have found that the gaslighting Gabbies tend to dial it back a notch or so because
Yeah.
they're not getting from you what they thought they were going to get.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
do. And I would even look at it a different way too, Linda. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think part of the work is you're okay with your reaction.
there we
So
are.
maybe it's, and I don't know. I agree with you. Maybe they do dial it back because we always feel that way. But I wonder if it's the other way around of I just don't like pay her any attention. She just buzzing around over there, and I'm
Exactly. And it affects me not at all. Exactly. No, absolutely. Absolutely. That could be the case for sure. For sure. Because they tend fundamentally not to go anywhere. They're still around. Fundamentally, that's so true.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, okay, so Zanika, you come up with the fact that you know your triggers and you've come up with maybe, I don't know, one, two, three different approaches you take depending on the situation or the scenario. What would you say to somebody that says, you know what, I mean, why, I mean, what, why do I have to be the one that, that does the work? I mean, why do they get a pass? You're telling me, Linda and Zanika, that I got to keep doing all the work while these people clearly are wrong and they're, hitting me up, just trying to knock me off my square, whatever their issue is, trying to hold me back. I don't get it. Help me understand why I have to continue to do the work.
Because your success is up to you.
Oh, there it is. There
You
it is.
know, and I get it. Listen, I am a black woman working in corporate America. I get it. Sometimes you do feel like, why do I have to do all the work? But my success is up to me. And I am not making the choice to allow Gaslighting Gabby to knock me off my own personal course.
Mm,
Because, and Linda, you see it. When people are coming to us and they're in a coaching session, their brains are in it,
yeah, yeah,
right? And they're telling us
absolutely.
this story multiple times, and you can see the emotion. And I get all of that, right? And I get the frustration
Hmm.
and just constantly having to deal with it. But I also think, and I've learned this from kind of my own coaching journey and my own experience too, of really managing myself. It's all I
Hmm.
can do.
That's it. That's it.
And to create the change that we want to see, I can't do it from a place of being completely unnerved and unrattled all the time.
Absolutely. Like Miss Nick said, that's good because it was. That's good. We are responsible and in control of our own success. 100%. That's why doing the work is critical.
Yeah.
That's why you have to stay steadfast and focused. Sanika wouldn't be where she is in her corporate career. I wouldn't be where I am in mine if we hadn't done it and if we don't still continue to do it. Because don't believe now. I just
That's
need y'all
right.
to know. Don't believe because she and I sitting here talking to you about it that we don't deal with this on a regular basis. We
Yeah.
still do.
And can
We
I just
still do.
say too, Linda, when you do the work, you start to see the other opportunities, right? You start to see
Yes.
where I can distance myself. I don't always have to be, in a project with this person or interacting with this person. I can start to maybe document some things a little bit differently because now I understand what's happening to me. I know what gaslighting is. I understand my triggers and I know how I want to react. So now maybe I can start to document things a little bit differently, or now I can start to plan an exit strategy. But I think that's the other part of what doing the work gets you. It gets you in
Yes.
a place where you can start to create opportunities for yourself because The goal of the person who's gaslighting you is to throw you off your course.
That's
Period.
exactly it. Bottom line. That's it. That's it. And you made a statement, I think you also said it's a choice, right? You can choose to allow them to do so, or you can choose not to. But it is your choice
Yeah.
because you are in control. Phenomenal, Miss Chapman, which you always are on these subjects when you go live with me, which I truly appreciate you doing. I mean, this was such a critical topic. Like Barrington said earlier, you know, some people don't understand it. Some people are still talking about it. Consuela joined us too. She says sometimes gaslighting is the culture of the organization. You're absolutely right, Consuela. Sometimes it's not just Gabby, it's the entire organization. You are absolutely correct. And everything that Zenica shared with us in this session prepares you to determine, like in Consuela's example, whether or not, as what Zenica just said, you need an exit strategy, because maybe that is the solution. Maybe that's the step. But even in that exit, if that's the end goal or direction, you still got to do this other part of the work. I truly believe to be successful in the exit strategy and to allow it to repeat again. Would you agree, Zanika? I don't think you just, yeah, yeah,
Wholeheartedly agree.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as always, this time just flies by, but this was awesome. Zanika, I can't express how much I deeply appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your expertise, your personal experience, and every session we've been on together. I would ask you guys, if you did not, I said this earlier, but seriously, if you didn't catch part one of this, please go back and listen to part one and then come back and listen to this part two. If there's anything about what Zanika shared with you in these steps today that you need a little bit more clarity on, please reach out to her directly. I know she would be very happy to expound, give you some more context. If you are dealing with with workplace trauma, excuse me, and you need someone to help you get on the other side of the trauma, that's exactly what she specializes in. So definitely reach out to her. Thank you again, Zanika. Love you. Appreciate you so much for always saying yes when I reach out to you to share with who we know is an audience that doesn't get as much focus and attention as they need, doesn't get focus or attention that they deserve,
Yeah.
which is my whole purpose with being Brown at Work Live.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining.
Can I just say to you, Linda, thank you so much for the work that you do, because you've been doing this long before it was cool. You are an OG, you are a
Mm,
mentor turned friend to me. And I think you're absolutely right. I don't think that there are enough coaching and career development and personal development opportunities for Black and Brown people in general and
people.
Black and Brown
Yes,
women specifically.
yes,
And so I just want to
absolutely.
thank you for being a trailblazer in this profession and really kind of leading the path and showing the way for people like me. So tip my hat to you, Miss Linda.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. All right, lady. Take care. Thank you everyone for joining live. And for those of you catching on replay, thank you for showing up. Would love to hear from you. Take care. Bye bye.